Hey guys, I'm Joshua Woodrum, and I'll be talking about the first part of skin and derivatives and where they come from in the embryo. So, the first part I'm going to talk about is the development of the epidermis. So, most of it, almost all of it actually, is formed from the ectoderm. So, the first thing that happens is just after neurulation, the ectoderm starts to proliferate and cause a layer called the periderm to be formed. And this is kind of like a shell that surfaces the entire body of the embryo and will come off normally around week 21, but sometimes it stays on and doctors have to peel it off when the baby is born. Not a big deal, just kind of take it away. So why it is important is because after that initial layer is formed, the basal layer or the rest of the ectoderm starts to proliferate a ton and cause a huge layer to be formed, initially called the basal layer. And this will be differentiated into the different layers of the epidermis later. And then finally, the first thing of the development is that the basement layer is formed. And the basement layer contains a bunch of collagens, laminins, and fibronectins that separate the dermis from the epidermis. And this is really important because if this separation didn't occur, then the signals from the epidermis and the signals from the dermis would get mixed up, and you would have a bunch of different wacky things happening, and our skin wouldn't form correctly. So going into the next slide, we are going to talk about the basal layer differentiation. So first I'm going to talk about the layers, and then I'll talk about the signals that are involved with it. So we have the horny layer, the granular layer, spinous, and germinative. So the first thing that's really important is the germinative layer. So that is the layer of stem cells that the basal layer turns into this, and it's a layer of stem cells that continually uh, activate throughout our entire lives. And so what they do is they activate and they form up into the spinous layer, and they push and push up and up and up, and eventually around the horny layer, the skins are they're dead. The cells are dead through apoptosis, and they will be sloughed off and shed, and then it'll continue to form more. And so as these skin cells move up through the different layers, they will continually be receiving different signalings and differentiate into the different things. So the intermediate layer or the spinous layer is formed of a bunch of keratin or called keratinocytes, and the epidermis is actually formed with these keratinocytes cranially and moves caudally to cause this formation of all these cells. And then throughout our life, the germinative layer keeps pushing them up. So the signaling for all this actually starts with in the dermis. So interleukin 1 stimulates GM-CSF and FGF7 in the dermis, which the dermis releases P63, which upregulates Notch and allows for a ton of release of Notch. So Notch is, like we see here, is a super key factor. So keratin is found in each of these layers, and there's different keratins found in each layer. And Notch will go to the K5 and K14 on the bottom and activate them and keep them differentiated, and then K1 and K10 and Invulcrum and so on and so forth. It's pretty straightforward. Just Notch is super important. It affects all the different keratin differently and forms the different layers. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the sealing of the skin. So this is one of the most important things. This is the whole reason why we have skin, is it's watertight, so water can't get into our body or out of our body, and then it protects against infection. So bacteria can't pass through the skin, viruses, things like that, most at least. So first, the bottom layer, K5 and K14. So these keratinocytes are bound by desmosomes and adherins, which cause very tight junctions and do not allow for, and specifically bacteria, to pass through here. Water is also tight, kept out of here, but the important one here is that infection cannot pass through these layers, or bacteria or viruses. And then this also, integrins bind to the dermis, which allows the epidermis and the dermis to stay tight. They bound together. And so yeah, moving up, K1 and K10 by disulfide bonds, and then up to invulcrin and filarigrin. So these are our, and same thing with man, sorry, lowercrin, is they cause these envelope proteins in tight bundles, and they kind of stack on top of each other and stick together so tight that they're watertight. So water, like I said before, can't come in and out, and that's really important so you don't die. So moving on to the next part, I'm going to talk about the content of the different cells. So everything besides that was derived from the ectoderm. So the first one being melanocytes. So as we learned in class, these are highly studied cells, and they come from neurocrest cells. And actually, they move extremely quickly. The neurocrest cells are released around week 6, and they are found in the skin around week 6. It can take up to a few days to a couple of weeks, more on that few days to a week time to get there. And they function as sunscreen and pigment to the hair and skin later on, but they kind of absorb those UV rays and protect the body from the damage that can come from the sun. Something that's really interesting is that, like it says here, in the third month development, the density is 2,300 cells per millimeter cubed, and then it drops to 800. So although this isn't exact, we don't know why this happens, but some of the speculation out there is kind of the same line of like PCGs and other things we've learned, is that they're trying to root out the weak, trying to find the most fit cells to do the job, because these cells are very likely to produce cancer. So they want to get the best of the best they can. The body wants to get the best of the best they can so they can do their function and not develop benign tumors and progress more than that and kill us. So so it's not exactly known why, but that is a thing to keep in account. So the next thing we're going to talk about is Langerhans cells and Merkel cells. So the Langerhans cells are the macrophage. They're the immune system of the skin. They're formed in the bone marrow, and they migrate to the skin, and they'll do this continue throughout our lives. These things are really important to keep us healthy, because anything that happens to get past the K5, K10 cells, or anything like that, it'll eat them up, right, before they even get to them, and keep us safe. These cells are also the ones responsible for allergic reactions. So if you get, if you're allergic reactive to whatever, anything, they are the cause of that. So Merkel cells are really important to us because they give us the fine touch. So they're pressure receptors that help us feel, like I said, different pressures and stuff like that. So there's a ton of it on our fingertips and a ton of it on our lips that allow us to feel more detailed. But yeah, so they lie at the base of the cell membranes of the nerve endings of the dermis. So they kind of sit on that basement membrane and allow for us to feel. These guys actually show up 4 to 6 months later, and they're also derived from the neurocrest cells. So moving on to the dermis. The dermis contains blood vessels, hair follicles, nerve endings, and sensory receptors. And the dermis is actually really cool because depending on where you are in the body, it forms differently. So for example, in the trunk, the majority of the dermis is derived from the somatic layer of the lateral plate mesoderm, while some other part lower down on the back of the trunk, it's derived from the somites actually. Then in the head, it's all derived from neurocrest cells. All of the dermis is formed by neurocrest cells. So it's just kind of really interesting depending on where you are in the body and what signaling the dermis is receiving. It comes from different cells, and that's going to be really important when we talk about derivatives from the skin. So the next thing that we got to talk about is the different layers. So we have the papillary layer and the reticular layer. So the papillary layer around 3 months starts to differentiate and push up into the epidermis, and it starts to form these ridges called the epidermal ridges, and they push up into the epidermis and form the start of the sweat glands, the oil glands, the hair glands, and that channel for those things to go through. The reticular layer is a super thick layer made up of mostly collagen and elastin, And elastin helps with stretching of the skin, and collagen is really the key player here. It creates the strength and the structure of the skin and allows for um, strength laterally and vertically. So vertically, it kind of connects the two systems together, so that it connects the dermis to the hypodermis and the epidermis, and then the other one just gives it structure and strength. And this is also what's responsible for keeping our skin hydrated. So they collect water and allow our skin to be hydrated. So the dermis is actually super thin during embryonic development, and it only thickens up during infant and childhood. Last blood vessels are developed. They develop along with the nerves, and they follow the nerves through development. And that's to make sure that the nerves always have a constant blood supply. And then just kind of like another interesting fact, there's 20 times more blood vessels than needed in the skin to help with thermoregulating of the skin. Next, skin derivatives. So Gary's going to take over a lot of the skin derivatives. I kind of want to talk about where they come from. So they come from common pathways and epithelial mesenchymal interactions. So the common pathways, every single one is WNT, Sonic Hedgehog, and FGF, almost every single one. And then the other really important part is those mesenchymal cells. So they've developed from neurocrest cells, and they move and they sit underneath the dermis. And so they're these purple things right here. So depending on where they are in the body, what the dermis is and how the dermis is shaped and where they are located depends on what they differentiate into and form these derivatives. So Garrett's going to talk more about that and how they are actually derived from and everything like that. So going on, talking about research. So currently, the research that's going on is fetal skin can heal without any scarring, and whereas adult skin scars a lot. And so they want to see if they can find out how fetal skin is healing without scarring and use that into surgery and things like that to reduce scarring or to heal scarring, so you don't have these nasty scars after a surgery or major accident or whatever it may be. So there's 5 things that they have identified in fetal skin that is not in adult skin. So it's CS, elastin, FN, K17, and INV. So I'll talk more about those. So for the fetal skin, CS is found all throughout the fetal skin and is only found up in the top epidermis in adult skin. And so they're looking into how that can coordinate. Elastin, same thing. There is no elastin found at all in the fetal skin, but here we see tons of that brown color, green color, whatever color, all throughout the adult skin. And they think elastin and K17 is one of the most important factors, because something about breaking apart that elastin in the body doesn't allow for a complete seal afterwards, because you broke up that elastin, that stretching ability. So because they can no longer stretch, they kind of have to form this nasty scar, but using scar tissue over top of it. So that's kind of rough, because when they're trying to do this research, they found out that it might be a little harder than first suspected to be able to heal it. So FN, like we see here, there is tons of it in the fetal skin, almost none of it in the adult skin. So finally, with the current research, K17. So K17, there's tons of it in the embryo, and almost none of it in the adult skin. And the other thing is invulcrin. Invulcrin was found a ton in the fetal skin and only present in the granular layers of the adult epidermis. Almost none of it is found in the adult. So basically, what they're trying to do here is they're trying to find out if they can find a link and cure scarring. So future research, I don't really have a tab there, because the main thing that they're trying to do is find out if those Meckel cells, which come from neurocrest cells, can also become cancerous. So yep, that's my presentation, and Garrett would take the rest.